Stephan Mitchell knelt on the deck of the Second Chance, examining the crack between the planks. November was approaching and winter storms were coming. Giuseppe had warned him, the winter sea is unforgiving. If the boat isn't ready, it will swallow you. He stuck his finger into the crack. It wasn't deep, but it was widening. Water was seeping through. It needed to be repaired. Is there a problem? Giuseppe's voice came from behind him. The old fisherman was approaching, coffee cups in hand. There's a crack here, said Stephan. It's grown. We'll need new tar. Giuseppe knelt down and examined the crack. He ran his finger over the wood. A strange expression appeared on his face. Sadness, longing. Stephan couldn't quite tell. This wood, Giuseppe said slowly, is special wood. It was put here 17 years ago. I remember it very well, because the one who placed it was my son. Stephan turned to Giuseppe. He had known the old man for 5 months, but Giuseppe had never spoken in detail about his family. Only once, a very brief mention. My son was a sailor too, but he never came back. Your son? Stephan asked carefully. Giuseppe nodded. He put down his coffee cup and sat down on the bench. His eyes gazed into the distance, as if he could see the past. His name was Antonio, he said. My second son, Marco's younger brother. He was a little younger than you, 26 years old. Strong, smart, full of life. Stephan listened quietly. There was a weight in Giuseppe's voice, the accumulated pain of years. Antonio was a woodworker, Giuseppe continued. He built boats. Since he was a child, his father Marco and I taught him. But he learned better than us. He had magic in his hands. He worked the wood as if it spoke. Giuseppe stroked the wood. This boat is his last work. He built it in 1929. He was 17. Father, he said, I'll build you a boat. The most beautiful. The strongest. You'll fish with this boat for the rest of your life. And he did. He worked for 1.5 years. Every piece of wood, every nail, every detail. It all came from his hands. Marco helped. I guided him. But Antonio did the real work. Stephan began to look at the boat differently. Every piece of wood was a young man's love. Every nail was a son's devotion. When the boat was finished, said Giuseppe, Antonio was very happy. Here, Dad, he said, this is your ship. You can choose its name. So I named it the Sage of the Sea, because Antonio had shown me a wisdom I could never teach him. Then what happened? Asked Stephan, his voice low. Giuseppe took a deep breath. 1931, 2 years later. Antonio set sail with Marco to the northern waters to hunt for cod. It was June, the weather was fine. There was no danger, his voice trembled. But on the 3rd day a storm came. An unexpected sudden storm. The radio transmission was cut off. We heard nothing for 2 days. For 2 days I looked at the pier. They'll come, I said. Antonio is a very good sailor. They'll come. On the 3rd day, the Coast Guard boat arrived. They had brought Marco. He was injured, in shock, but alive. They hadn't been able to bring Antonio. Silence fell. The waves lapped gently against the boat. Seagulls screeched, but Giuseppe's grief drowned out all sound. What happened? Asked Stephan. In the storm, their boat capsized, said Giuseppe. Marco and Antonio fell into the sea. The water was cold. The waves were very high. Marco grabbed hold of some wreckage. Antonio tried to grab hold too, but a wave separated him from Marco. Marco screamed, tried to swim, but Antonio disappeared. He disappeared among the waves. Giuseppe's eyes filled with tears. The Coast Guard searched for 2 days. They found nothing. Antonio was gone. The sea took him, and it never gave him back. Stephan understood Giuseppe's pain, because he had lost too, his wife, his children, his loved ones, and he knew that these losses never completely went away. I'm sorry, said Stephan. I'm truly sorry. Giuseppe wiped his tears. Why are you apologizing? You didn't do it, I know, but I'm using your boat. The boat Antonio built. Maybe it hurts you. Giuseppe turned to Stephan. He placed his hand on Stephan's shoulder. No, son, quite the opposite. Because you're using this boat, Antonio's memory lives on. Because this boat isn't just wood. It's Antonio's legacy, his love, his hard work. Antonio built this boat for me. But fate took it away from me. For years I couldn't use this boat. Every time I looked at it, I saw him. His hands, his smile, his voice. It hurt so much, but then you came, said Giuseppe. Another son, wounded, broken, lost. And I understood that Antonio's legacy was meant for you. This boat was built to heal you. Antonio didn't know that at 17. But fate did. Stephan tried to digest Giuseppe's words. The boat wasn't just a tool. It was a father's love, a son's work, a family's memory. Giuseppe, said Stephan, his voice serious, am I worthy of this responsibility? To carry Antonio's boat? Yes, said Giuseppe firmly. Because you are like Antonio. You love the sea. You respect the boat. And most importantly, you are looking for a second chance, just like this boat. Giuseppe stood up. Come, let me show you something. Giuseppe led Stephan to the stern of the boat. There, in a small compartment, was a wooden box. Stephan hadn't noticed it before. Open this box, said Giuseppe. Stephan opened the box. Inside were old papers, drawings, notes, plans, all yellowed but legible. These are Antonio's designs, said Giuseppe, the plans he used to build the boat. Every plank, every measurement, every detail. It's all here. Stephan carefully examined the papers. Antonio's handwriting was neat, his drawings detailed. There were notes on every page. This needs to be strong. Double up this piece of wood. Flexibility needed here. Antonio, said Giuseppe, wasn't just building a boat. He was creating a work of art. He had thought about, calculated, and tested every part. This boat was his soul. As Stephan shuffled through the pages, he saw a small note on one. In the corner, scribbled in ink. For my father. Because he taught me everything. His chest tightened. This wasn't just a boat. It was a father-son story. A story of love, devotion, and loss. Giuseppe, said Stephan, putting the papers back. I'll repair this boat according to Antonio's plans. I'll do every detail the way he wanted. That way his work will live on. Giuseppe smiled. For the first time, it was a genuine smile. That's why, he said, I see you as a son. Because you understand what Antonio did, and you respect his legacy. That day Stephan began the repairs. But this time he wasn't just fixing a crack. He was preserving Antonio's work. He was keeping his love, his work, his dream alive. Stephan had spread Antonio's plans on the table. In Giuseppe's cabin, by the light of a kerosene lamp, he was studying each drawing. Midnight was approaching, but he didn't want to sleep. These plans were a treasure map, a door opening onto Antonio's thoughts. Do you see this part? Said Giuseppe, pointing to a drawing. Antonio changed this section 3 times. In the first design, he planned to use flat wood. Then he decided to make it curved. Dad, he said, the waves hit a flat surface too hard. But on a curved surface, the wave slides off. The boat takes less damage. Stephan examined the detail. Antonio was right. The curved design was superior from a hydrodynamic point of view. A 17-year-old boy who hadn't studied engineering had intuitively found the right solution. He was a genius, said Stephan admiringly. Yes, said Giuseppe, his voice a mixture of pride and sadness. But he wasn't just smart, he was passionate. While building this boat, he worked from dawn to dusk every day. His hands were calloused, his back ached. But he never complained, because he loved what he was doing. Giuseppe turned another page. Look, here's what he wrote. The engine compartment is the most critical part, because if the engine breaks down, you're stranded at sea. So the engine must be protected, but it must also be accessible. Stephan examined the plans for the engine compartment. Antonio had thought of every detail. Hidden compartments for spare parts, drainage channels for oil leaks, ventilation for overheating. It was all there. I used this boat for 5 months, said Stephan, but I never took the time to examine it in detail. I just used it. But now I see that every detail is there for a reason. Yes, said Giuseppe. Antonio thought not only about the visible part, but also the invisible part. Because he knew. True quality is hidden from the eye. Stephan leafed through more pages. Each one showed Antonio's thought process. Trials, errors, corrections. The pursuit of perfection. On one page, he saw another small drawing. A small carved detail on the bow of the boat. The silhouette of a dolphin. Beneath it, Antonio's handwriting. Talisman. Dolphins. Guardians of the sea. If they are there, the boat is safe. That carving, said Stephan. Is it on the bow of the boat? Giuseppe nodded. Yes, but it's hidden under the paint. Over the years, we've painted the boat many times. The carving is no longer visible. But it's there. It's still there. Then, said Stephan firmly, during the repairs, I'll clean that spot. The carving will be visible again. Antonio's talisman will shine once more. Giuseppe squeezed Stephan's shoulder. You really understand, son? This boat isn't just wood. It's a spirit. And you're reviving that spirit. The next morning, Stephan got to work. First, he had to fix the crack. But this time, he wouldn't just slap on a quick patch. He would repair it properly, according to Antonio's plans. The plans had specific instructions for replacing the wood. If the wood cracks, replace it with the same type of wood. Don't use different wood, because the expansion rates are different. And use wooden pins instead of nails. They're more flexible, more durable. Stephan asked Giuseppe, what kind of wood did Antonio use? Teak, said Giuseppe. The best, expensive but very resistant to seawater. Antonio had my father bring it from Sicily. It was a special order. Can we still find teak? Giuseppe thought. Marco might have some in his warehouse. Go ask him. Stephan went to Marco's workshop. The big man was repairing fishing rods. Teak, said Marco, raising his eyebrows. It's been a long time. But wait, I need to check somewhere. Marco went to the back of the workshop. He rummaged through old boxes and crates. Finally, he pulled out a small crate. Inside were old pieces of wood. Look, said Marco. These are Antonio's leftover pieces. He saved them as spares when he was building the boat. My father never threw them away. He'd say, maybe one day we'll need them. Stephan examined the wood. It was teak, 17 years old but still solid. Dry, not cracked, usable. Can I use these? Stephan asked. Of course, said Marco. It's as if Antonio left them for you to use. As if he knew someone would come one day and repair the boat. Stephan took the wood and returned to his boat. Giuseppe was waiting. I found it, said Stephan. Antonio's original wood. Giuseppe's eyes lit up. Then let's get started. I'll help you. The repair took longer than they expected, because they wanted to do every step right. Stephan removed the old plank, carefully, without damaging it. Then he prepared the new plank. He measured, cut, and sanded it according to Antonio's plans. Giuseppe was teaching him the old techniques. Antonio didn't like nails, he said, because metal rusts in water. Wood doesn't rust. So use wooden pegs. Strong, flexible, and never rots. Stephan prepared the wooden pins. Small, delicate, precise work. His hands grew tired, his eyes blurred. But he didn't stop. Because this wasn't just a repair. It was a tribute. A tribute to Antonio's work. 3 days later, the wood was in place. It fit perfectly. The crack was closed. Water wasn't leaking. Bravo, said Giuseppe, examining it. Antonio himself couldn't have done it better. Stephan smiled proudly. But the job wasn't done. Now it was time to find Antonio's talisman. He went to the bow of the boat, under the paint, where the dolphin was hidden. Carefully, he began sanding. Slowly, the old paint peeled away. White, blue, green. Layers of years. And finally, he saw it. The carving. A dolphin. elegant, fluid, as if swimming in the waves. Carved by Antonio's hands. The work of a 17-year-old boy's love for his father. Giuseppe looked over his shoulder. His breath caught. Antonio. He whispered, "My son." The old man's eyes filled with tears. But this time, there was not only sadness. There was happiness too. Memories bittersweet. 17 years, said Giuseppe, emotion in his voice. I haven't seen this in 17 years, but it's still here, still beautiful. Stephan finished the carving. He polished it. He made it shine, and the dolphin came back to life. It seemed to have leapt from the sea, glistening in the sun. Antonio's talisman, said Stephan, is back in service. It will protect us now. Giuseppe placed his hand on the carving. His fingers caressed the spot where his son's hands had touched 17 years ago. Thank you, son, he said. You brought Antonio's spirit back. That evening, Giuseppe and Stephan sat on the second chance and watched the sunset. The boat had been restored. The wood had been replaced, the carvings revealed. But most importantly, the boat's spirit had been revived. You know, Stephan, said Giuseppe, when Antonio died, I couldn't use this boat, because every time I looked at it, I saw him, and the pain was unbearable. But then you came, and I understood. Antonio didn't leave. He's just here in a different way, in this boat, in this dolphin, and now in you. Stephan turned to Giuseppe. What do you mean? You are Antonio's continuation, said Giuseppe. Like him, you love the sea. Like him, you respect the boat. Like him, you seek a second chance. Antonio died young. His dreams were left unfulfilled. But you are living his dreams. You set sail with this boat. You fish with this boat. You heal with this boat. And that, said Giuseppe, tears in his eyes, is the most beautiful gift, because Antonio's legacy lives on through you. Stephan felt a lump in his throat. Giuseppe, I'm not sure I deserve this. You are, said Giuseppe firmly, because you don't see this boat as just a tool. You see it as a living thing, just like Antonio did. The sun was setting on the horizon. The sea sparkled with gold and orange. The carving of the dolphin glowed in the last light. Tomorrow, said Giuseppe, I'll show you something else. A letter Antonio wrote, a letter he gave me before he died. What does it say? Asked Stephan. About second chances, said Giuseppe, and how every ending is actually a new beginning. The next morning, Giuseppe called Stephan to the cabin. On the table lay an old envelope. Yellowed, the corners worn, but still sturdy. This, said Giuseppe, stroking the envelope, is Antonio's last letter. He wrote it the day before he set sail. He gave it to me. Father, he said, if anything happens, read this. I laughed. Don't be silly, I said. Nothing will happen. But he insisted. And he left the letter. Giuseppe's hand trembled. After Antonio died, I couldn't read it for 3 years. It hurt too much. But in 1934, one night, I found the courage, and I read it. He handed the envelope to Stephan. Now you read it, because this letter isn't just for me. It's for you too. Stephan hesitated. But this is private. Between you and Antonio. No, said Giuseppe. Antonio wrote this letter for the future. Not for me, for those who would come after him. And now that's you. Stephan took the envelope. He opened it carefully. Inside were 2 pages written in handwriting. Antonio's handwriting was neat and legible. Dearest father, if you are reading this letter, it means I did not return. It means the sea took me, and you are now alone. First, I want you to know this. Don't be sad. I lived a happy life. It was short but full. You and Mom gave me love. Marco gave me brotherhood. The sea gave me freedom. And most importantly, I gave you the chance to build a boat. It wasn't a second chance for me, it was first love. Because while building it, I carved my love for you into every plank. Now I have one request. Use this boat. Go out to sea, fish, live. Because if I can no longer live, live for me. But I know you won't be able to. Because I know you, Dad. Every time you look at this boat, you'll see me. And you'll suffer. So give the boat to someone. But not just anyone. To someone special. Someone who loves the sea. Someone wounded. Someone seeking a second chance. Because this boat isn't just a tool. It's a healing tool. When I built it, I didn't build it just for fishing. I built it to heal. To heal you, my family, myself. And one day, someone else will need this boat. Someone lost. Someone broken. Someone searching for hope. When that person comes, you'll know. You'll see it in their eyes. And you'll give them the boat. And that person will heal with the boat. Just as I wanted you to heal. Dad, I'm gone. But my love remains. It's in every plank of that boat. Every nail. Every wave. And one day when someone sails that boat, I'll be with them. In the wind, the waves, the sun. Because love never dies. It just changes form. I love you, Dad. I always will. Your son, Antonio. When Stephan finished the letter, tears were streaming down his cheeks. He couldn't speak. He just put the letter on the table and wiped his eyes. Giuseppe was crying too. It's been 15 years, he said, and I still cry every time I read it. Stephan gathered his voice. Giuseppe, was Antonio talking about me? When he said the one looking for a second chance. Yes, said Giuseppe. I didn't understand when I first read it. I thought, who could that be? But then years passed. There was war, and you came. When I first saw you, I understood. That's the person, I said. The person Antonio was talking about. Lost, broken, searching for hope. And I gave you the boat. Because Antonio had instructed me. Give it to someone special, he said. And you were special. Stephan buried his face in his hands. I don't deserve this. Antonio is dead. I'm alive. It's not fair. Life isn't fair, said Giuseppe. But it's meaningful. Antonio died young. But before he died, he left a legacy. Not just the boat. A message, love never dies. And now, you carry that message. By using the boat, by repairing it, by keeping it alive. Giuseppe put his hand on Stephan's shoulder. Antonio didn't know you. But he knew you would come. Because in the world there are always people looking for a second chance. And there are always people willing to help them. Antonio helped before he died. You, me, everyone. In the afternoon, Stephan returned to the boat. But this time, he looked at it with different eyes. Every piece of wood was Antonio's touch. Every nail was his thought. Every detail was a note of love. He sat down on the deck. He looked at the carving of the dolphin. Antonio, he whispered, I didn't know you. But now I know your story. You built this boat when you were 17. To show your love for your father. But you also built it for someone unknown. For me, how did you know? He asked the wind. How did you know that 17 years later a man would come? A lost, broken man who needed healing. The wind didn't answer. But Stephan felt something. A presence, an energy. It was as if Antonio was there. Listening. You wrote in your letter, love doesn't die, it just changes form. You were right. Because your love is in this boat, and I feel it every day. When I go out to sea, it's as if you're with me. At the helm, in the sails, in the waves. You guide me. You protect me. Stephan took a deep breath. I promise, Antonio, I'll take good care of this boat. I'll protect your work. And one day, maybe I'll help someone else. Just like you helped me. The sun was setting. The sea was turning golden. The seagulls were making their final flights. And Stephan understood for the first time. This boat was not just wood and nails. It was a living thing. Antonio's spirit, Giuseppe's love, Stephan's hope. They were all there. The name Second Chance wasn't just for Stephan. It was a second chance for Antonio too. The life he never lived, Stephan would live. The days he never saw, Stephan would see. I'm proud of you, Antonio, said Stephan. And I will never forget you. The wind caressed his hair. The waves gently rocked the boat. And Stephan felt he was not alone. He had never been alone. That night, Giuseppe and Stephan lit a fire on the beach. They sat silently. The crackling of the fire, the sound of the waves. Peace. Giuseppe, said Stephan. What happened to Antonio's mother? Giuseppe was silent for a long time. Then he spoke. Maria, she was a beautiful woman. She loved Antonio very much. But when Antonio died, she broke. A year later, she got sick. Heart. The doctors said stress. But I know, broken heart. She died in 1933. We buried her next to Antonio's grave. Now they rest together. Stephan shook his head. Loss, pain, grief. Everyone was suffering. Giuseppe, Maria, Marco, and Stephan. But you know, said Giuseppe. Before Maria died, she said something. Don't worry, she said. Antonio is waiting for us. And one day we'll be together again. I didn't believe her. But now I'm old, and maybe Maria was right. Maybe, said Stephan. Death isn't an end. Just a transition. Yes, said Giuseppe. And maybe our loved ones are always watching us. In the clouds, the waves, the wind, the fire was slowly dying out. It was night. The stars were shining. Tomorrow, said Giuseppe, we'll continue the repairs. There's more work to do on the boat. The engine, the sails, the rudder. We'll check everything according to Antonio's plans. I'm ready, said Stephan. This boat will be perfect. Just like Antonio imagined it. Early in the morning, Stephan and Giuseppe began examining the boat's engine compartment. Antonio's plans were in front of them. Every detail, every note was important. The engine, said Giuseppe, pointing to the plan, is the heart of the boat. Antonio knew this very well. Look, he wrote here. The engine doesn't just provide power, it provides confidence. In the middle of the sea, the engine is your only friend. Stephan opened the engine cover. Inside was an oily, old but sturdy engine, 17 years old. The engine Antonio had installed with his own hands. This engine, said Giuseppe, was Antonio's biggest investment. He spent a lot of money on it. He got the best one. Because he knew, a cheap engine ends up costing you more. Stephan examined the engine piece by piece. Pistons, spark plugs, belts, everything was in place. But it was old. Some parts needed replacing. Giuseppe, where can I find these parts? He asked. There's a shop in the harbor owned by Mr. Peterson. He sells old engine parts. Go to him, mention Antonio's engine. He'll remember. Stephan walked to the harbor. Mr. Peterson's shop was a small store on the corner. When he entered, an old man greeted him. Good morning, said Peterson. What are you looking for? Parts for the engine on Antonio Rossi's boat, said Stephan. Giuseppe sent me. Peterson's face changed. Antonio, I remember that kid. He was a great craftsman. He came every week, asked questions, examined the parts. He worked hard to learn about engines. The engine on his boat, Peterson continued, was the best of its time. I sold it to him myself. This engine, I said, will run for 50 years. He laughed. I don't need 50 years, Mr. Peterson, he said. Just a lifetime. Peterson wiped his eyes. We didn't know that lifetime would only be 2 years. He went to the back of the shop and pulled out an old box. Look, these are spare parts I ordered for Antonio. He died before he came to pick them up. I kept them. Maybe one day they'll be needed, I thought. The box contained spark plugs, belts, gaskets. All new, never used. Can I have these? Stephan asked. Take them, said Peterson. No charge. For Antonio. And for Giuseppe. Thank you, said Stephan. I'm truly grateful. Peterson touched Stephan's shoulder. You live with Giuseppe, don't you? You go out to sea with Second Chance? Yes. Then you're keeping Antonio's legacy alive. That's the greatest gift. Giuseppe is very lucky to have found you. In the afternoon, Stephan started repairing the engine. Giuseppe helped, giving instructions. Take out the spark plug, put in a new one. But be careful, don't tighten it too much. Don't leave it too loose either, just right. Stephan worked carefully. His hands were covered in oil, his face sweaty. But he was focused. Every screw, every part was important. Antonio, said Giuseppe, used to sing while repairing engines. Italian songs. His mother taught him. If you work while singing, Maria would say, your work will be better. What songs did he sing? Asked Stephan. Giuseppe's eyes drifted into the distance. Then he began to sing softly, O sole mio, stan fronte a te. His voice was old and broken, but beautiful. The Italian words danced in the wind. This song, said Giuseppe, is about the sun. It means my son. Antonio loved this song. Dad, he would say, this song reminds us. Every day, a new sun rises. Every day, a new chance. Stephan listened while working on the engine. Giuseppe's voice calmed him. It was as if Antonio was there too, listening. 2 hours later, the engine was ready. New spark plugs, new belts, clean oil. Stephan turned the key to start it. The engine started on the first try. Quiet, smooth, perfect, brava, Giuseppe shouted. Even Antonio couldn't have done better. Stephan smiled. For the first time, he had done a major repair on his own. And he had succeeded. Now, said Giuseppe, let's look at the sails. Antonio cared a lot about the sails. The engine can break down, he used to say, but the wind never stops. The sail was lying on the deck. It was old and worn, but still usable. Stephan examined it carefully. There were small tears. Some stitches had come undone. This sail, said Giuseppe, was sewn by Antonio's mother, Maria. She was a very good seamstress. Antonio helped her. Together, they worked for 3 weeks. Every stitch was sewn by hand. Stephan touched the sail. It was thick, sturdy fabric. Years had passed, but it was durable. Can I repair it? He asked. Yes, said Giuseppe. But be careful. Sew new stitches without undoing Maria's. That way the old and new will be together. Stephan took the sewing materials. He had never sewn a sail before, but he was ready to learn. Giuseppe showed him the technique. First, bring the edges of the tear together. Then, pull the needle from the inside out. Pull firmly, but don't pull too tight. The fabric needs to be flexible. Stephan made his first stitch. It was crooked. The second stitch was better. The third was even better. Slowly he found his rhythm. Giuseppe watched. You're doing well. Antonio was like that at first too, but then he became a master. You will too. Hours passed. The sun set, but Stephan didn't stop. He wanted to finish the sail. Each stitch was a step. Each tier was a story. Around midnight, he finished. The sail was repaired. The tiers were closed. The stitches were secure. Bravo, said Giuseppe, stretching. Now sleep. Tomorrow we'll test the sail. At sea. The next morning they got up early. The sky was clear. The wind was light. A perfect day for sailing. They prepared the boat. The engine started. The sail was hoisted. Stephan took the helm. Giuseppe checked the ropes. Are you ready? Asked Giuseppe. I'm ready, said Stephan. They left the harbor. Slowly, carefully. The engine was running, but today they would use the sail. When they reached open water, Giuseppe turned off the engine. Now just the wind. Just like Antonio liked it, the sail caught the wind. It filled, stretched taut. The boat moved forward, silently, gracefully. Stephan stood at the helm. He felt the wind. He felt the pull of the sail. He felt the boat dancing with the sea. This, he said, is incredible. When I used the motor, there was always noise. But now, just silence. Yes, said Giuseppe. Antonio used to say, the sail is the way to talk to the sea. The motor shouts at the sea, but the sail whispers to it. They sailed for hours. Stephan controlled the boat. He read the wind. He adjusted the rudder. Everything was perfect. Giuseppe, he said, this boat, it's truly wonderful. Antonio created a masterpiece. Yes, said Giuseppe proudly. And now you live with that masterpiece. Antonio's dream is coming true. With you. On the way back, Stephan thought. This boat wasn't just wood. It was a family legacy. Love, loss, hope. It was all there, and Stephan was now part of that legacy. Antonio's brother, Giuseppe's son, captain of the second chance. When they docked, Marco was waiting. How did it go? He asked. Perfect, said Stephan. The boat is like new. Marco smiled. Antonio would be happy. My brother always said, this boat will live on after me. Others will use it, and they will love the sea too. You are that person, Stephan. The winter winds had begun. The sea was rougher, colder, more unpredictable, but the second chance was ready. The engine had been repaired, the sails hoisted, every plank checked. According to Antonio's plans, the boat was in perfect condition. That morning, Giuseppe made a suggestion. Let's go somewhere special today. Antonio's favorite place. The Northern Cove. The Northern Cove? Said Stephan. Isn't that far away? Yes, said Giuseppe, 15 miles out. But Antonio went there every week. Dad, he would say, the fish are the best there, the sea is the calmest, and the spirit is the most peaceful. You'll understand when you go. Stephan hesitated. 15 miles was the furthest he had ever gone. But the boat was ready. He was ready too. Okay, he said. Let's go. They set out at dawn. The engine ran smoothly. The sea was relatively calm. The coast slowly receded. Houses, people, sounds, all were left behind. An hour later, Giuseppe pointed. Look, over there, behind those rocks. That's the Northern Cove. Stephan looked carefully. The rocks were high, steep. There was a narrow passage between them. It looked dangerous. Can we get through there? He asked. Yes, said Giuseppe. But be careful. There are shallow spots. Antonio, on his first trip, scraped the bottom of the boat. Then he found the safe route. Now I'll show you. Stephan followed Giuseppe's instructions. Go slowly, turn left. Now stop, turn off the engine, raise the sail. The passage was narrow, the rocks were close. But Stephan remained calm. He controlled the rudder. The boat glided gently, and then they emerged from the passage. Stephan held his breath. Before them lay a magnificent cove. The water was clear, turquoise blue. The sand was white and fine. It was surrounded by rocks, invisible from the outside. A hidden paradise. This, said Stephan, unable to find the words. This is incredible. Yes, said Giuseppe, smiling. Antonio's special place. Only he and I would come here. No one else knew about it. Dad, he would say, this is our secret. Only the Rossi family knows about it. They pulled the boat into the cove. They turned off the engine. Complete silence fell. Only the gentle lapping of the waves could be heard. There weren't even any seagulls. Only peace. Giuseppe sat down on the deck of the boat. His eyes blurred. This is where I last saw Antonio. Before setting out to sea, he had come here. Marco and I came with him. We fished here, ate, laughed. That day, Giuseppe continued, Antonio was very happy. Dad, he said, I am the luckiest person, because I love the sea and the sea loves me. There's nothing more beautiful than that feeling. Giuseppe's voice broke. Then we said goodbye. See you in 3 days, I said. But we never saw each other again. Stephan sat down next to Giuseppe. He didn't speak. He was just there. Sometimes silence was the best consolation. The silence lasted a long time. Then Giuseppe spoke. Stephan, I'll tell you something. When Antonio died, I wanted to die with him. I didn't want to live. But Maria stopped me. Giuseppe, she said, if you die, Antonio's memory dies too. But if you live, he lives with you. For years I clung to those words, but it was hard. Every day, every moment, I missed him. Until you came along. Giuseppe turned to Stephan. When you came, something changed. For the first time when I thought of Antonio, I didn't just feel pain. I felt hope too, because you were his continuation. By using this boat, you keep Antonio's dream alive. By loving the sea, you carry his passion. By healing, you spread his message. Every ending is a new beginning. Stephan felt a lump in his throat. Giuseppe, I can't give you back as much as you've given me. You gave me everything, the boat, knowledge, family. No, said Giuseppe. You gave me the most valuable thing. A reason. A reason to live. Because now, I wake up every morning and know I must be here for you. I must teach you, help you, support you. When Antonio died, I lost the meaning of my life. But when you came, I found a new meaning. And that is the greatest gift. It was noon. They fished. In Antonio's favorite place, in his favorite way. Giuseppe told old stories, Antonio's childhood memories, the day he caught his first fish, the time he built his first boat. One day, said Giuseppe, Antonio was 7 years old. He came to me and said, "Dad, when I grow up, I'm going to build the biggest boat." "How big?" I asked. "As big as the sky," he said. Giuseppe laughed. Of course, he didn't build a boat as big as the sky, but he built the second chance. And that boat was as big as the sky to him, because he built it with love. In the afternoon, they decided to paint the boat with dolphins. Stephan got out the paints. Giuseppe held the brush. "Antonio," said Giuseppe, "he loved this dolphin so much." "Dad," he would say, "dolphins protect us. They are the angels of the sea." And he was right. Dolphins are always a good sign. They painted together. Giuseppe drew the outlines. Stephan filled them in. Blue, white, gray, the dolphin came to life, as if it were about to leap out of the waves. "Perfect," said Giuseppe when they were done. This is how Antonio imagined it. Evening came. It was time to return. But before leaving, Giuseppe did something. He took a small bottle out of his pocket. Inside were ashes. "This," he said, his voice deep with emotion, "is some of Antonio's ashes. When Maria died, we buried them together. But I kept a small part, to bring here one day." Giuseppe opened the bottle. He held it up to the wind. The ashes slowly scattered, into the sea, into the wind, into the sky. "Antonio," said Giuseppe, with tears in his eyes, "you are free now. You are in the sea, in your favorite place, and you will always be here." Stephan watched silently. This moment was very special. Giuseppe was truly sending his son off, letting him go, bringing him peace. "Now," said Giuseppe, "every time I come here, I will be with you. But not with pain, with peace, because you are at peace now." As they returned, the sun was setting. The sea was bathed in gold and orange. Second Chance was making its way through the waves. The dolphin's carving glistened in the sun. "Stephan," said Giuseppe, "today, I want to make you an offer." "What offer?" "This boat," said Giuseppe, "is now entirely yours. Legally, I'm transferring it to you. The ownership." Stephan was surprised. "But Giuseppe, this is your family's boat. Antonio's legacy." "Yes," said Giuseppe, "and now, you are part of my family too. You also carry Antonio's legacy. This boat will be in the best hands with you." "But no," said Giuseppe firmly. "I've made my decision. This boat is yours now. And one day maybe you'll pass it on to someone else. Just like I'm passing it on to you. That way Antonio's legacy will live on forever." Stephan took a deep breath. "Giuseppe, I won't let you down. I'll take good care of this boat. I'll honor Antonio's work. And one day, I hope, I'll help someone else too." "I know, son," said Giuseppe. "You already are." When they docked at the pier, Marco was waiting. Giuseppe told him he had transferred ownership of the boat to Stephan. Marco smiled. Antonio would be happy. He'd know his boat was in good hands. That night, the Monterey community gathered at Giuseppe's cabin. Martha made coffee, Samuel played jazz, Dr. Harrison told stories. Giuseppe made the announcement to everyone. "This boat is now Stephan's, legally, completely, and I am very happy." A storm of applause broke out. Everyone congratulated Stephan. But, said Giuseppe, raising his hand, this is just the beginning, because Stephan carries not only the boat, but also Antonio's spirit, and that spirit inspires us all. Stephan stood up. He felt compelled to speak. Thank you, to all of you. Giuseppe, Marco, Martha, everyone. You didn't just give me a boat. You gave me a family. You gave me a purpose. You gave me a life. I never knew Antonio, but now I feel him. Every day, every time I set sail, he is with me, and I will carry his legacy forever. This boat is second chance. But not just for me, for all of us. Because we all deserve a second chance. Despite our losses, despite our pain, and I promise, this boat will not only be used for fishing, but also for helping others. Just like Giuseppe helped me. As the night progressed, stories were shared. Giuseppe recounted more memories of Antonio. Marco recounted his last days with his brother, and Stephan recounted his first experiences with the boat. By dawn, everyone had returned home. Giuseppe and Stephan walked to the pier. The second chance glowed in the moonlight. Look, said Giuseppe, pointing to the carving of the dolphin. Antonio's talisman. Now it's yours. Yes, said Stephan. And every time I see it, I'll remember him. His love, his hard work, his dreams. Good, said Giuseppe. Because love never dies. It just changes form. And now that love lives in you. Stephan looked at the boat. It was no longer just wood. It was a living legacy. Antonio's hand, Giuseppe's heart, Stephan's hope, all together. And Stephan understood. This boat would live forever, because it was built with love. It was repaired with love, and it would be used with love. Second Chance was not just a name, it was a promise of life, of hope, of the future, and Stephan Mitchell would fulfill that promise forever. Stephan Mitchell's journey continued. Second Chance was now entirely his. Antonio's legacy, Giuseppe's gift, Stephan's future. Ahead of him lay many more seas, many more sunsets, many more storms. But now he was ready. The boat was ready. His heart was ready. His spirit was ready. 17 years ago, when Antonio built this boat, he didn't know that one day someone else would use it. But he wrote in his letter, someone lost, broken, searching for hope, and Stephan was exactly that person. But he was no longer lost. He had been found. He was no longer broken. He was healing. He was no longer hopeless. He was full of hope, because Second Chance had not just given him a boat, it had given him a life.